Before we begin, everything in this video is sourced from public statements by investigators, the Lexington County Coroner's Office, and named individuals who spoke on the record to established news outlets. No cause or manner of death has been determined in this case. No suspect has been named, and law enforcement has been explicit that Elena's husband is not a person of interest. This is a breakdown of a real, unresolved case, not a conclusion about what happened. Now, let's begin. On the evening of June 11th, 2026, a woman walked into a Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way in Lexington, South Carolina. She checked in at 6:38 p.m. Security cameras caught her clearly, an olive green hoodie, black athletic pants, the kind of ordinary outfit a personal trainer wears on any ordinary Thursday. She didn't work out. She showered. And then she walked out the back of the building toward a stretch of woods behind a nearby Lowe's. That was the last time anyone who knew her would ever see her walk under her own power. Her name was Elena Katherine Moore. She was 39 years old. She trained clients at a different Planet Fitness location. She'd worked as a pharmacy technician. She'd tended bar. She was, by every account from the people who loved her, the friend who showed up, reliable in a way that made her sudden silence feel instantly wrong to the people who knew her rhythms. At 9:15 p.m. that same night, a Publix grocery store camera further down Old Cherokee Road caught her one more time. Same hoodie, same direction. Walking deeper into a corridor of South Carolina Road that isn't a city block. It's the kind of semi-rural stretch with retail on one end and tree cover further down, the kind of place a person could walk for miles without crossing a single working camera. After that camera lost her, nothing. No sightings. No calls. No trace. She was reported missing the next morning, June 12th, by her husband. For 6 days, an entire community searched for her. The Lexington County Sheriff's Department, Fire Services, EMS, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, the state's major crimes unit, brought in specifically because a case like this needed resources a local department doesn't have in-house. The Department of Natural Resources. A drone circling overhead. Cadaver dogs working the tree line on foot. On June 15th, that search came back with nothing. 2 days later, everything changed with a single phone call. A resident told police they'd seen a woman matching Elena's description near Old Cherokee Road and North Lake Drive on the night she disappeared. Within roughly 90 minutes of that tip, a search team found a body in the woods nearby, less than 2 miles from where the Publix camera had lost her 6 days earlier. The Lexington Police chief would later stand in front of cameras and say it plainly. It was the public's attention, the tips generated by media coverage, that kept this case alive long enough to be solved this far. "You guys put this case out there," he said. "That's how we received this tip." The body was identified as Elena Moore. And then came the part of the story that turned a tragic discovery into a case nobody can close. No external trauma. No bruising. No lacerations. No gunshot wounds. No signs of strangulation. Nothing a coroner could point to and call an answer. Coroner Margaret Fisher's office made the decision that most people watching the story wouldn't expect. Instead of handling the autopsy locally, Elena's body was transported over 100 miles to the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, one of the region's most equipped forensic pathology facilities. That's not a routine decision. It's the kind of decision that gets made when investigators believe an answer exists, but it's not going to be visible on the surface. The coroner's office ordered 3 additional categories of testing, a full toxicology panel, histological studies examining Elena's tissue at the cellular level, and a complete review of her medical records. Officials were direct about the timeline. This wasn't going to be resolved in days. It could take weeks, sometimes months. Here's why that matters, and here's what those 3 tests are actually built to find. Toxicology looks for what was in Elena's bloodstream, her urine, and the fluid inside her eyes. Vitreous humor, which is sealed from the rest of the body and resists the decomposition that can degrade other specimens over time. It doesn't just detect substances. It measures concentration. It can tell investigators the difference between a therapeutic dose of a prescribed medication and a dangerous one, a distinction that, in a case with no visible trauma, might be the entire case. Histological analysis puts tissue under a microscope, looking at cellular patterns a standard visual autopsy simply cannot catch. Long-term deterioration looks different, cell by cell, from something sudden. This test exists precisely because a body can carry evidence of what killed it at a level no naked eye will ever see. Medical records review establishes a baseline, what conditions Elena had, what she was being treated for, and whether anything in her documented health history helps explain a death with no outward sign at all. Each of these takes time. None of them, on its own, tends to be conclusive. What actually produces an answer in cases like this is where these categories overlap, where a toxicology finding lines up or contradicts what the tissue shows and what people who knew Elena had already been saying out loud. And people had been saying quite a lot. 11 days before she disappeared, Elena sat at a brunch table surrounded by friends. Her closest friend, Sandra Campbell, has said publicly, on the record, more than once, that something felt different about Elena that day. She kept getting up, looking around, glancing toward the window, like she was watching for someone. When Campbell tried to ask what was wrong, Elena reportedly said she couldn't talk about it there, not with that many people around. She said the two of them needed to talk one-on-one, somewhere private. That conversation never happened. At the end of the brunch, hugging goodbye, Campbell says Elena told her, in these words, that she was scared for her life. She didn't say why. She said she'd explain later. On June 4th, a full week before Elena disappeared, she called Sandra Campbell. Campbell missed it. She called back. She texted. Nothing ever came back. Campbell has said publicly that she carries that missed call. That whatever Elena needed to say that day, the thing she said was too much to explain in front of other people, died with her. A second friend, Lauren Beasley, described something friends often notice only in hindsight, a pattern. Elena talking about wanting to leave a relationship, pulling back, things steadying for a while, then the cycle repeating. Beasley has been careful to frame this as her own characterization of a private relationship, not a finding from investigators, not an accusation. And that distinction matters, because here's what investigators have said, on the record, without ambiguity. Elena's husband reported her missing himself, the morning after she was last seen. He told police he had already called Planet Fitness on his own, and confirmed her membership had been used to check in around 6:38 that evening, the kind of thing someone actively looking for answers does. Lexington Police Inspector Missy Silcox has stated clearly and publicly that he is not a person of interest in this investigation. A former FBI agent who has commented on the case publicly made a specific point that's worth sitting with. As far as has been reported, there's no indication Elena's phone connected to a network from inside the wooded area where she was ultimately found, and surveillance in the surrounding area shows no one following her in. Building a theory that someone walked in after her, she argued, is a significant leap without direct evidence placing anyone at that location. That's the frame any future evidence in this case will have to sit inside. So, what is investigators' actual focus right now, while toxicology and tissue samples work their way through a lab? Before her body was even found, while she was still classified as missing, police had already flagged her cell phone. Not her car, she didn't have one with her. Not a suspect. Her phone. In a missing persons case, a phone is often the fastest route to finding someone. Faster than a ground search. Faster than tip lines. Real-time carrier location data, under the right emergency circumstances, can sometimes place an active device within minutes. Investigators confirmed Elena had the phone with her when she left that evening. What they couldn't confirm was whether she still had it by the time anything happened to her. A full data pull, the kind investigators sought through warrant, since carriers required judicial authorization for anything beyond an emergency exception, could, in theory, do something no witness account or grainy parking lot camera can do, account for a person minute by minute. It could show whether Elena walked a straight line the entire time between the gym and the Publix, whether she doubled back, whether she stopped somewhere in between, something that, as of the most recent public statements, remains completely unknown. It could also show something about the 6 days after that last sighting. If her phone kept transmitting even briefly, a location history could reveal whether she stayed in that general area the whole time, or whether transmission simply stopped at a specific place, at a specific moment. That detail alone, the last point a phone stopped talking to a tower, is the kind of thing that turns an entire search area from somewhere in these woods into an actual, workable location. There's a limit to all of this, though. A modern smartphone left unattended typically loses meaningful battery within a day, sometimes two. So even in the most favorable scenario, whatever last location data exists is almost certainly clustered in the first day or two after Elena vanished, not spread evenly across 6. Beyond location, a full device extraction could answer the single most concrete open question in this entire case. What happened to that June 4th call? Did Elena ever see Campbell's messages? Did she try to respond another way before going silent? Even without recovering message content, delivery and read receipts alone could settle whether those attempts to reach her were ever seen at all. And there's a layer almost nobody talks about when this case comes up. Elena spent her career reading other people's bodies. Heart rate, exertion, recovery, because that's what a personal trainer does for every client. There's a real chance her own phone, or a connected fitness tracker, was doing exactly that for her automatically. If so, it would have generated a minute-by-minute physiological record across her final hours. Heart rate, movement, sleep. Not proof of who did anything, but potentially proof of exactly when something changed. None of this has been publicly confirmed. No agency has said whether the phone was recovered, whether a warrant produced results, or whether any extraction has taken place. What we do know is this. As of the most recent statements from the Lexington County Coroner's Office, Elena's cause and manner of death remain undetermined. Toxicology, histology, and the medical records review are still pending. And this case, 6 days of searching, a discovery that came down to a single tip, an autopsy that found nothing on the surface, remains open. Elena Katherine Moore was 39 years old. She showed up for her clients every week. She showed up for her friends for decades. 11 days before she disappeared, she told the person closest to her that she was scared for her life and asked for a conversation that never came. Whatever the science eventually reveals, whatever that phone, if it's ever fully examined, turns out to hold, the people who loved Elena Moore have made sure of one thing. Her name hasn't gone quiet, and neither has the question of what actually happened to her in those 6 days. We'll be following this case as new information becomes public. If there's an update, we'll bring it to you. Sourced, not speculated.